Welcome to another episode of Ancient Gods Judging Your Life Choices. Tonight, we return to the vast, wild, beautifully terrifying landscape of Native American mythology. A world where spirits controlled storms, animals had personalities stronger than reality TV stars, and humans were gently reminded that nature was not their friend. Before cities. Before cars. Before someone invented the cursed idea of deep-fried Oreos, there were stories. Stories to make sense of life, death, storms, disasters, and most importantly, why you should never, ever wander out at night without telling anyone. Because trust me, the forest was busy. Let's start with the oldest, wisest, and most celestial beings, the Sky People. Across many indigenous nations, the sky wasn't just a bunch of clouds floating around like lost sheep. No, it was alive. A bustling spiritual airport where beings of unimaginable power flew overhead, occasionally dropping wisdom, blessings, warnings, or absolutely terrifying weather events. Let's begin with the Lakota, because their cosmic cast is so dramatic it makes Greek mythology look underfunded. We, the sun regal, radiant, and the eternal morning alarm clock nobody asked for. We wasn't just a glowing ball of fire. He was a powerful being who watched over the world with the disappointed gaze of a father who just caught you doing something stupid, again. Hanwi, the moon, elegant, pale, mysterious. Hanwi was the calm night guardian, watching over the world long after we clocked out because he was tired of humans ignoring common sense. Together, they balanced cosmic order, which is impressive because, as you'll see, humans were constantly ruining that balance. Next, the four directions. Think of them as spiritual GPS points with personalities. East, symbol of beginnings. Sunrise energy. Probably the annoying morning person of the universe. South, warmth, growth, and calm breezes. The snacks and vibes, direction. West, endings, mystery, and thunderstorms. Dramatic. Love's mood lighting. North, cold, discipline, and emotional intensity. If a direction could tell you to get your life together, it was north. These four weren't abstract ideas, they were literal beings with roles in maintaining harmony. And frankly, they did a better job running the universe than we do running a dishwasher. But now that the cosmic bureaucracy is established, let's talk about the beings who take their job very seriously, the Thunderbirds. The original storm gods with wingspans so huge they break every aviation guideline. Among the Ojibwe, Menominee, and many others, Thunderbirds were warriors of the sky, protectors of humanity, and full-time destroyers of anything evil that slithers, crawls, or tries to ruin your afternoon. When they flap their wings, thunder. When they blink, lightning. When they get annoyed, you run. Thunderbirds have exactly zero chill. They spend their celestial time keeping the world safe from creatures that should have never been allowed to exist in the first place, like the great underworld snakes. Massive, horned primordial serpents living in lakes and rivers, waiting to emerge and cause catastrophic problems like ruining fishing trips, sinking canoes, swallowing people whole, and generally being the freshwater version of Nope. The rivalry between Thunderbirds and underworld serpents is basically the oldest superhero versus supervillain storyline on the continent. Storms? Thunderbirds fighting. Floods? Serpents throwing tantrums. Humans? Background characters who should stay indoors. Sea wolves, ice giants, and why nature has been trying to kill humans since forever. So far, we've talked about sky spirits, cosmic parents, and flying storm warriors who beat up evil sea noodles for a living. A solid start. But now we move west, to the towering forests, glacier-carved mountains, and storm-beaten coastlines of the Pacific Northwest, where mythology is so vivid it makes reality look under-textured. Here, every tree has a story, every wave has a personality, and every creature is 10 times larger than it needs to be. It's like Mother Nature said, I'm going to create a biome so intimidating that hikers will think twice before stepping off the path. And in this land roams one of the most dramatic creatures of all. The sea wolf. WASGO, half wolf, half killer whale, 100%. No avoidance roll high enough to save you. Among the Haida, the sea wolf is a supernatural predator with the power of the ocean behind it. Imagine a creature with the strength of a wolf, the speed of a whale, the appetite of something that does not understand portion control, and the attitude of a bouncer who's had a long day. The sea wolf doesn't just swim. It slices through the ocean like a knife through cultural cautionary tales. Its roar? Loud enough to make mountains reconsider their structural integrity. Its presence? Enough to make entire villages rethink their proximity to the beach. But here's the twist. The sea wolf isn't evil. It's a punisher of taboo breakers, a spiritual enforcer ensuring humans don't start acting like main characters when they're clearly side characters in nature's storyline. Break spiritual laws? Sea wolf shows up. Mess with the wrong territory? Sea wolf investigates. Act like you own the coastline? Sea wolf arrives to remind you that you absolutely do not. Now we go north, where the cold is so merciless it feels personal. Where winter isn't a season, it's an antagonist. Enter the ice giants. Winter is coming, but make it 10 times worse. Among the Inuit, Yupik, and other Arctic cultures, the world beyond the ice wasn't empty. It was teeming with spirits, some wise, some helpful, and some so horrifying that people today would sprint back into their heated homes screaming. Let's discuss one of the more infamous inhabitants of the cold, Thunderbirds. Massive, shaggy, monstrous figures wandering the tundra with a constant vibe of, I woke up on the wrong side of the glacier. Thunderbirds are cannibalistic giants. Yes, cannibalistic. Your prehistoric, midnight dark nightmare fuel. They live in caves, tower over humans, smell like they haven't bathed since the Ice Age, and think you look like a mid-sized snack. Encountering one was considered the universe's polite way of saying, you know what, let's try reincarnation and aim for better luck next life. These giants were warnings. Stay alert. Stay smart. Stay alive. Winter wasn't a joke, it was a spiritual intelligence test. But not all Arctic beings wanted to eat you. Some were basically winter life coaches, like Sedna, the mother of sea creatures, one of the most powerful beings across Inuit mythology. Sedna rules the ocean. All sea mammals, seals, whales, walruses, come from her. But she also had one of the most dramatic origin stories of all time, involving betrayal, storms, desperation, and someone literally cutting off her fingers, which then turned into animals. We'll tell her story later, trust me, it's wild. She reminds humans that respect keeps the world functioning. Break taboos, overhunt, or anger the sea. Sedna withholds animals until shamans intercede. Basically, Sedna is the universe's resource manager, and she is not afraid to freeze your schedule. But now that we've covered sea monsters and ice giants, it's time to journey south, to deserts where the heat hits you like a spiritual punch, and beings roam the dunes who have absolutely no chill whatsoever. Get ready for Star Chapter 1, Part 3: Desert Trickster Spirits, Night Walkers, and the Sand That Hates You. Desert tricksters, skin stealers, and why you should never whistle after dark. We leave the ice behind and step into the blistering, trembling vastness of the American Southwest, a landscape so hot, so empty, and so brutally silent that it feels like the world is holding its breath. This is Navajo, Hopi, Ute, and Pueblo territory. Land of mesas, red stone cliffs, and canyons that look like someone carved the earth with a god-sized knife. But beneath the sun-scorched ground and behind the shimmering heat lies something more than just sand and stone. The desert is alive. It listens. It watches. And it remembers. The trickster, Coyote, my. Equal parts comedian, chaos engine, and master level. I warned you not to trust me. The Navajo trickster, Coyote, is not a simple prank-pulling cartoon animal. He is ancient, powerful, unpredictable, and the walking embodiment of, "This is why we can't have nice things." He creates. He destroys. He fixes problems he caused 5 minutes earlier. He gives fire to humans, then steals their chickens. Coyote is the perfect metaphor for humanity itself. Clever, curious, impulsive, easily distracted, and willing to make mistakes just to see what happens. But he teaches lessons through failure, not wisdom. If you follow his stories long enough, you start to notice a pattern. Coyote's biggest enemy is Coyote. Relatable. The skin stealers, not named directly, the desert's darkest taboo. Now we must walk carefully. There are certain beings in Navajo culture that are not to be spoken of by name lightly, especially not at night, especially not casually, and especially not in detail. But for the sake of respectful education, we can speak around them. They're taboo-breaking witches, beings who abandoned all sacred laws, trading humanity for forbidden abilities. They are shapeshifters. They walk in stolen skins. They mimic voices. They lurk where sound carries strangely, canyon mouths, lonely roads, the edge of moving shadows. The Navajo belief isn't that these beings are myths. It's that they are dangers, real, feared, and treated with deadly seriousness. They are cautionary tales about power abused, taboos shattered, and the terrible price of losing your connection to community, humanity, and balance. And no, there are no summoning rituals, no urban legend games, no casual storytelling at midnight for fun. These beings demand respect, even in second-hand retellings. We keep it clean. We keep it cultural. We keep it safe. The night visitors, Chinda ghosts of illness, misfortune, and unfinished breaths. In Navajo belief, when a person dies, their good is released into the world, but their Chinda, the residual negative spirit, can linger. Chinda are not evil, but they are dangerous. They cling to objects. They gather in empty corners. They ride on the dust carried by windstorms. And if one touches you? Sickness. Nightmares. A slow draining of energy. This is why traditional Navajo homes have no corners, only round walls, so nothing hides where human eyes can't see. The desert doesn't forgive carelessness. Every creature, every spirit, every ghost carries a lesson. Respect nature. Respect balance. Remember that the world is older, wiser, and more heavily armed than you. Which brings us to one of the most feared beings in all of indigenous storytelling. The one who feeds on fear, sorrow, and solitude. The one whose name must be spoken with care. We are heading back north, to snowbound forests, frozen lakes, and howling winter winds. It's time. The Wendigo. Winter's hunger with legs. The landscape shifts again. The desert heat dissolves into a creeping, bone-deep chill, the kind that slips under your clothes, into your ribs, and straight into your existential despair. We're in the northern woodlands now. Territory of the Algonquin-speaking peoples, Ojibwe, Cree, Innu, and others whose cultures stretch across the frosted spine of North America. These forests are vast. Silent. Dense enough that the trees look like an army standing at attention. And when winter comes, everything becomes one giant freezer full of things that want you to leave. And lurking somewhere in that frozen quiet is the creature you're here for. The one so feared, so iconic, so symbolically powerful that even saying its name wrong can give people chills. The Wendigo. The Wendigo is not a monster. It's a warning label for humanity. Forget Hollywood. Forget video games. Forget 10-foot-tall elk-headed demon creatures. The real Wendigo of native oral tradition is far more terrifying because it represents something that can happen to anyone: uncontrolled hunger. Unrestrained greed. The moment you stop seeing other people as people. It's not just a creature. It's a state of being. A spiritual corruption. A coldness that crawls inside a person until there's nothing left but hunger wearing a human shape. This is why the Wendigo appears during the worst winters, times when starvation whispering in your ear might convince you to break sacred laws. And once you break them, you're done. Spiritually lost. Frozen from the inside out. The classic Wendigo symptoms: you know when your friend starts acting weird and you're like, "Bro, are you good?" Well, for the Algonquin peoples, the checklist goes something like this. Suddenly obsessed with food, but never satisfied, starts isolating themselves, talks like there's an echo in their chest, eyes that look frozen wrong, strength that makes zero sense, and worst of all, the voice that stops sounding human. Even worse, the Wendigo grows with every life it consumes. Which means the bigger it is, the longer the fear and hunger have been eating away at it. That's the part Hollywood got right, accidentally. The Wendigo problem. You can't fight winter. The biggest cultural meaning of the Wendigo isn't that there's a monster outside your cabin. It's that there might be one inside. It's a reminder that hunger can turn neighbor against neighbor, that greed is colder than winter, that selfishness unravels communities, and that surviving harsh land means protecting one another, even from ourselves. So yes, the Wendigo is terrifying. But it exists to teach unity, not fear. Though fear is definitely a bonus. And now, we descend deeper into the woods, because for every legendary creature that feeds, there's one that protects. For every spirit of corruption, there is a spirit of balance. And the next one? It's ancient, majestic, and absolutely done with human nonsense. Thunderbirds. Sky kings with zero chill. Welcome to the sky. Not the cute, fluffy cloud, sunshine emoji, sky. No, the other sky. The one that looks like it's plotting. The one that rumbles like an old man getting up from a chair. The one that says, "I could kill you with precipitation if I wanted to." This is Thunderbird territory. The Thunderbird is not a bird. It's an event. For many indigenous peoples across the Great Lakes and the Plains, Ojibwe, Menominee, Lakota, Ho-Chunk, and more, the Thunderbird is the great protector. To be clear, this isn't some oversized pigeon. This is a cosmic-level being with wings so wide they cover the sun, eyes that flash lightning, and wingbeats that create thunder. The kind of creature where, if you saw it in real life, you wouldn't say, "Wow, majestic." You'd say, "Ah, so this is how I die." Thunderbirds are essentially nature's security team. Their main job? Keeping the world in balance. Specifically, stopping the chaos beings that live below the earth, the water spirits, the serpents, the ancient forces that don't believe in the concept of peaceful coexistence. Imagine the cosmic food chain as a dysfunctional family. Thunderbirds. The oldest sibling who has a job and pays taxes. Water serpents. Like Mishipeshu. The middle child who thinks arson is a personality. Humans. The youngest child eating glue. Thunderbirds don't attack humans. They save them. Half the time despite us. They bring storms so lakes refill. They strike down destructive spirits. They keep balance between the upper and lower worlds. They are, essentially, weather with a moral compass. Thunderbirds do not mess around. These beings are serious. When they show up in stories, it's not like a thunderbird glided majestically overhead. It's more like the sky ripped open because the thunderbird was in a bad mood today, and you don't summon a thunderbird. You don't contact one. You don't manifest it by journaling in your crystal's notebook. If a thunderbird appears, it's because something is terribly wrong, something is terribly dangerous, or something humans did was just incredibly stupid. Honestly, usually number 3. The most awkward part. People actually found their feathers now. Thunderbirds are spiritual beings, so their feathers aren't like regular bird feathers. They're sacred. Enormously powerful. Rare beyond reason. So rare, in fact, that if someone had one, people didn't just say, "Cool feather." They said, "Whose entire destiny did you borrow?" Finding a thunderbird feather is like someone handing you the nuclear codes, a winning lottery ticket, the instructions to life itself, and also telling you not to lose it or else. These feathers were used only by very specific, highly trained spiritual leaders. And even then, carefully. Because imagine being responsible for something from a being that could explode the sky if offended. No pressure. Intermission. Humans being human, there are stories of thunderbirds protecting entire villages, saving people during storms, warning communities of danger, and then humans still somehow went, "Let's disrespect nature for fun." Thunderbirds do not appreciate this. They are patient, but not that patient. They're divine beings, not customer service agents. Next up. Their enemies, the water serpents, because where there is thunder, there is always something lurking below trying to pick a fight. And these serpents? Oh, they absolutely live for drama. Mishipeshu and the underwater beings, the original chaos gremlins, alright. Enough flying majestically through the heavens with thunder gods. Time to go down. Way down. Into the lakes. Into the rivers. Into the dark, cold underworld where sunlight is just a rumor and everything has too many teeth. Welcome to the domain of Mishipeshu. Known to many of the Great Lakes tribes, especially the Ojibwe, Mishipeshu is famously part panther, part serpent, part underwater nightmare, and 100%. You're not swimming today. Imagine the most dangerous creature you can think of. Now give it antlers. Because of course. The underwater panther. A being with attitude, Mishipeshu, also spelled Mishipeshu, etc., is not a villain. Not a monster. Not an animal gone wrong. He's a powerful water spirit who guards sacred copper, controls water's wrath, tests the arrogance of humans, and occasionally yeets entire canoes for fun. He is fear, majesty, and chaos rolled into one very wet, very angry mythological package. Think of him as the CEO of freshwater problems. Mishipeshu versus Thunderbirds. The original beef. Remember the Thunderbirds? Those sky giants with the "I fix weather and break demons for breakfast" energy? Yeah. They hate Mishipeshu. And Mishipeshu hates them. This isn't petty rivalry. This is cosmic WWE. Thunderbirds rule the sky. Mishipeshu rules the depths. And neither of them passed the sharing part of kindergarten. Every storm, every lightning strike hitting the water, every massive wave? That's them fighting. Cosmic drama. Season 438. And humans? We're the innocent bystanders caught in the splash zone. The sacred copper situation. One of the biggest reasons to respect Mishipeshu is that he guards the ancient copper found in the Great Lakes. Not modern industrial copper. We're talking about the old stuff, pure, untouched, sacred. Indigenous nations used this metal for medicine, ceremony, tools, offerings. You didn't just stroll up to Lake Superior like, "Sup Mishipeshu, I'ma take some copper." No, you asked. You offered. You behaved like a respectful guest in someone else's supernatural house. If you didn't, well, let's just say you wouldn't be coming back to shore. Ever. When humans got too bold, there are stories, and I mean many, of hunters or travelers who thought they were immune to lake spirits. Spoiler. They were not. Some examples include ignoring forbidden places, boating during storms, shouting challenges at the water, trying to fish in Mishipeshu's personal swimming pool, generally being the reason warning signs exist each time. Mishipeshu's reaction was basically delete, followed by a canoe flipping, a sudden whirlpool, or the victim being dragged under by something big enough to move the entire lake surface. Moral of the story: respect the water. It's not empty. It never was. But Mishipeshu is also a teacher. Most people misunderstand this being. Yes, he punishes arrogance. Yes, he can drown you for being dumb. Yes, he probably invented the concept of do not enter zones. But he's also a guardian, a keeper of balance, a protector of sacred places, a test of humility. He exists to remind humans, nature isn't yours, you borrow it. And honestly, he's right. Next up, the spirits that can shapeshift better than anyone, because we've flown through the sky, we've sunk into the waters, and now it's time to talk about the beings who walk right beside humans, often disguised, and usually judging us. The deer woman. Beauty, danger, and unsolicited life lessons. All right. We've survived the sky gods. We've narrowly avoided being dragged into an underwater abyss by a catfish panther with antlers. Time for something arguably more dangerous: a supernatural woman with excellent hair and zero tolerance for disrespect. Ladies, gentlemen, and everyone in between. Introducing one of the most widespread, absolutely everywhere indigenous mythological beings, the deer woman. She's beautiful. She's deadly. She's tired of your nonsense. Let's start by clarifying the vibe. Across many tribes, including the Lakota, Cheyenne, Ojibwe, Muskogee, and others, deer woman is a spirit who can appear as a stunningly beautiful young woman, a graceful deerur, both at the same time. The ultimate aesthetic flex. But whichever form she takes, she radiates one message: behave. And if you don't, well, we'll get there. A spirit of fertility, love, and also humbling men. Originally, deer woman is a positive figure. A spirit of fertility, feminine strength, community, well-being, harmony with nature. She appears near ceremonies, births, dances, major life transitions. Basically, she shows up to bless people who are living with good hearts. She's protective. She's wise. She's deeply connected to the land. But, and this is the part that tends to get more press, she also deals with men who behave like human raccoons. The classic deer woman encounter storytime. Picture a guy. Let's call him Chad of the Plains. Chad is at a dance. He's had a bit too much to drink. His ego is doing push-ups. He sees a beautiful woman who seems strangely luminous. She dances like moonlight. She smiles like she knows secrets. She's laughing at his jokes. Mistake number 1. He doesn't notice her footwear. Mistake #2. He assumes this woman is into him. Mistake number 3, always. They walk away from the firelight, into the trees, where the shadows stretch too long. Then he looks down and sees hooves. Not heels. Hooves. And that's the moment every man realizes one universal truth: he should have minded his own business. What happens if you disrespect her? Short answer: your life becomes a cautionary tale. Long answer: deer woman doesn't harm people randomly. She punishes unfaithful men, abusive men, predatory men who break community trust, and occasionally, men who are just aggressively annoying. She doesn't kill them. Usually, she leads them deeper into the forest until their pride dissolves. They're spiritually corrected, they learn humility, or they realize they should treat women with respect honestly. She is the supernatural HR department the world deserves. Signs you're in a Dear Woman story. You meet someone too beautiful to be real. You forget where you were. The forest suddenly gets louder. The air smells like earth and flowers. You feel both comforted and terrified. You hear hooves behind you. You regret every decision you've ever made. A spirit of lessons, not fear. It's important to understand. Dear Woman is not malicious. She's not evil. She's not some horror creature hiding in the woods. She's a guardian of respect, balance, relationships, accountability. She reminds humans, especially the kinds of humans who cheat at board games or text 5 women wide at once, that our actions affect the world around us. Up next, a creature that doesn't care about your life lessons. If Dear Woman is the supernatural warning sign, then the next being is the supernatural consequence. We're heading into the realm of something older, stranger, and far less patient. Flying heads. The ultimate, leave us alone, monster. Welcome to the Northeast Woodlands, Haudenosaunee territory. Tall trees. Deep forests. Crisp air. And absolutely zero need for airborne decapitated entities, yet here we are. Because among the Iroquois nations, there is a legend, ancient, grim, and frankly way too dramatic, about creatures known simply as flying heads. When a culture names something that directly, you know it's going to be bad. What exactly is a flying head? Imagine this: a giant, severed human head. But bigger. Like, could use it as furniture, big. Now add glowing eyes, talon-like teeth, wild hair whipping in all directions, a voice like a thunderstorm trying to throw hands, and a tendency to fly around at night looking for trouble. This thing does not glide gently. It does not drift ethereally. It barrels through the darkness with the energy of a bowling ball possessed by rage. How they came to exist. A morality tale with a body count in most versions. The flying heads are born from people who were violently unjust, greedy, cruel to their own community, or so morally corrupt that even the underworld said, "No, you deal with them." Eventually, the community rose up and executed the offenders, buried the bodies improperly, or allowed anger to fester so deeply that something supernatural formed. The result? The offenders became enormous, cursed heads doomed to wander forever, hungry, furious, and allergic to minding their own business. Basically the universe saying, you don't get to die peacefully, you get haunting duty. Their main hobby: harassing humans. Flying heads show up like spiritual debt collectors. They appear at night, silently, until they're suddenly not silent at all and you hear trees cracking, wind rushing, and an unholy screech that sounds like someone dropped a piano down a cliff. They approach longhouses, villages, solitary camps, anywhere humans exist. Not because they need food. Because they need you to panic. They thrive on fear, like that one coworker who only comes alive when there's drama. The woman Who beat a flying head by accident. One of the oldest Iroquois stories features a flying head terrorizing a village during a horrible winter. Everyone was starving. Everyone was desperate. Except one woman. She sat inside her lodge roasting chestnuts, warm fire crackling, looking unbothered and fully fed. The flying head approached, ready to wreak havoc, but stopped. Why? She tossed a chestnut into her mouth, and the firelight made it look like she ate burning stones. The creature froze. If this woman could casually snack on rocks like popcorn, what else could she do? It backed away. Silently. Then fled into the woods. And never returned. This is the kind of story that proves half of folklore is just ancient creatures misunderstanding basic human activities. What they symbolize: flying heads represent unburied guilt, unresolved violence, community imbalance, the consequences of letting cruelty fester, and the spiritual debris of corruption. They're not random monsters. They are reminders. If a community doesn't handle injustice, injustice handles the community. Sometimes in the shape of a giant airborne noggin. Next up, a spirit so chill it makes every other being look exhausting. We're leaving the forests now. Headed into the plains, the mountains, and the deserts to meet a being who is part culture hero, part comedian, part chaos generator. The world's oldest trickster. The master of, I did this on purpose, and also, I absolutely did not think this through. Old Man Coyote. Hero, villain, disaster, genius. Time to meet the being who is single-handedly responsible for creation stories, cautionary tales, comedy, chaos, and at least 7 different spiritual headaches across the continent. He is brilliant, foolish, holy, ridiculous, wise, impulsive, generous, selfish, and aggressively unpredictable. He is Coyote, or Old Man Coyote, Iktomi's cousin, the first fool, the first teacher, or, depending on the day. Why are you like this? Coyote is not just a trickster. He's a cultural force. Different tribes portray Coyote differently. Navajo, Ute, Crow, Blackfoot, Nez Perce, Salish, Shoshone, and many more. But no matter the region, Coyote embodies the same central truth. Humans learn best from watching someone else mess up spectacularly. And Coyote delivers. Every single time. The Coyote paradox. Coyote can create life, steal fire, shape the world, defeat monsters, save humanity, bless communities, but he can also lie badly, get distracted by shiny objects, fall in love with the moon, lose a fight with a rock, accidentally resurrect the wrong creature, brag until the universe punishes him out of principle. He's the blueprint for every sitcom protagonist. The original, lovable disaster. Story time. Coyote steals fire, and immediately makes it everyone's problem. One of the most famous tales. Fire belonged to the fire beings, powerful spirits who weren't sharing. Coyote didn't like that. He gathered his animal friends. Made a plan. Immediately ruined the plan. Improvised a new plan. Somehow succeeded anyway. He snatched fire, fled across the earth, and every time the fire beings got close, he tossed the flame to another animal. Mountain lion, wolf, bear, squirrel, chipmunk, every forest creature with decent cardio each helped carry the fire, passing it on like the world's most dangerous relay race. Finally, exhausted and smoking, they hid the fire inside trees. Into their hearts. Their cores. Which is why wood burns. A beautiful explanation of natural science. Brought to you by an animal who once got into a shouting match with a river. The time Coyote defeated death, by accident. Many tribes tell a version of this. The world was young, people were dying, and the spirits asked, should humans stay dead forever, only for a little while? Some wanted rebirth. Some wanted permanence. Coyote? He voted for rebirth. Not out of compassion. He just didn't want to lose his favorite hunting partner. A ceremony was performed. A young man lay ready to be resurrected. The wind grew still. The spirits gathered. Life began to return. Coyote panicked. If people returned from death, life would never stay the same. There'd be too many people. Too much change. Too much unpredictability, and irony of ironies, Coyote hates unpredictability when he's not the one causing it. So he slammed the door of the lodge shut. Hard. The spirit flew away. The young man stayed dead. And death became permanent for everyone. Which means, Coyote accidentally invented mortality. Classic. Coyote's role. Teacher through disaster. It's easy to mock him. Everyone in the stories does at some point. But here's the brilliance. Coyote teaches the hardest lessons: community responsibility, humility, kindness, balance, moderation, by deliberately showing us the consequences of doing the opposite. He is the lesson. The warning. The example. You don't admire him. You learn from him. And sometimes laugh at him. Because he deserves it. Next. A being who is the opposite of Coyote in every possible way. If Coyote is chaos, this next spirit is order. If Coyote is a wildfire, this being is a mountain. Ancient. Steady. Watching. Judging silently like a wise elder who has lived too long to be impressed by anything. We're about to enter the realm of the stone giants, the original monsters of the old world. Time to leave behind Coyote, who at any given moment is probably setting something on fire and calling it a learning experience, and shift into something much older. Much heavier. Much less amused. Creatures who walked the land before humans. Before tribes. Before stories even had words. These are the beings whose footprints are basically small craters and whose skincare routine is just geology. Meet the stone giants, or, in Haudenosaunee tradition, the stone coats. What are the stone giants? Think of a creature carved from mountains. Massive bodies covered in rockskin like granite hair, like dry weeds, eyes like ember cracks in a hearthstone, footsteps that shake trees, and a diet consisting mainly of anything smaller than them, which is pretty much everything. They are so durable that weapons don't pierce them. Arrows shatter. Spears snap. Even blades bounce off like someone tapping a frying pan. Stone giants are not the polite, philosophical giants from fairy tales. They are ancient forces whose entire vibe is, I existed before your species and will continue to exist after your species ruins everything. Why they existed? A world too new, too wild. In many Iroquois stories, stone giants belong to the First Age, a time before humans fully settled, when the world was raw, unmolded, and full of terrifying experiments nature hadn't ironed out yet. The land was primal. The spirits were figuring things out. Nothing had rules. Stone giants were one of the earliest beings who roamed the earth, embodying raw power without restraint. They hunted animals. They hunted people. They hunted basically anything that moved because subtlety is not part of their brand. Their greatest weakness: they hate heat. You'd think being made of stone would solve the temperature problem. Nope. Their stone skin insulates them a bit too well. They can withstand winter, storms, and even some magical attacks. But fire? Fire melts them, softens them, fills their stony lungs with heat cracks. Humans figured this out early on. Imagine being a stone giant, thinking you're the apex predator of planet Earth, and suddenly a bunch of humans with burning sticks show up like new rules. The famous story, The Giants versus the Great Peacemaker, one of the most powerful tales in Haudenosaunee tradition, features a moment when the stone giants nearly wiped out entire communities. They came storming through the forests, eating, destroying, hunting villages like they were trail snacks. Then came the Great Peacemaker, the spiritual founder of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy. He wasn't a warrior. He didn't show up with an army. He didn't need a flaming sword. He brought wisdom. He taught the people unity, strategy, cooperation, three things stone giants can't handle because their IQ is somewhere between lava flow and tree stump. When humans worked together, traps were built, fires were set, pits were dug, lures were crafted. One by one, stone giants were driven away or destroyed. Not by brute strength, but by community. This is a recurring theme in indigenous stories. Power alone doesn't save you. People do. The last of the stone giants, most versions of the legend say that only a few remain. They wander deep in the mountains, ancient and lonely, regretting nothing because introspection is not their strong suit. Some say they survived by becoming smaller, still stone, still dangerous, but no longer towering across treetops. Others say they turned into literal stones, sleeping forever, waiting for the world to need them again. Which, hopefully, never happens. We've got enough problems. Next up, A spirit who is the complete opposite of a giant rock monster. We're leaving behind heavy footsteps, crushing strength, and granite bodies, and entering the world of a spirit who is small, subtle, mysterious, and incredibly important. A being who carries stories, dreams, shadows, and warnings. We're heading into the realm of the little people, guardians, tricksters, and masters of don't look at us. Little people, guardians, tricksters, and masters of don't look at us. After the thunderous skies, the hungry waters, and the massive stone giants stomping through the forests, it's time to meet the beings who remind you that size does not equal importance. The little people, known by many names across indigenous cultures, including Nimaragar, Zuni Kokili, and Abenaki Muin, are tiny, elusive, magical, and sometimes terrifying. They may stand only a few inches tall, but their influence? Monumental. Who are they, really? Don't let their size fool you. These tiny beings are guardians of sacred places, keepers of secret knowledge, mischief makers who enforce social rules, or just downright mischievous because, well, why not? They can be kind or deadly, depending on whether you respect the natural order, your neighbors, or just basic survival etiquette. The Nimerigar. Little but deadly. The Nimerigar are small, human-like creatures from Abenaki legends. Key features: barely over a foot tall, fast, incredibly strong for their size, skilled with tiny weapons, and possess poisonous breath or arrows in some stories. Why did humans fear them? Because one wrong step, like cutting down a sacred tree or wandering into their territory, and they would kill instantly. Yes, death by something you could literally hide in your pocket. Tricksters with a plan. Some little people, especially among the Zuni and Hopi, are more mischievous than lethal. They play pranks on humans, hide tools, steal food, occasionally scare entire villages just for fun, and, sometimes, teach life lessons in the most creative ways possible. Think of them as tiny life coaches with attitude issues and very low tolerance for disrespect. Why humans can't see them? Stories emphasize that you usually don't see little people because they exist in a slightly different plane, they can make themselves invisible, or because they simply don't want to be seen. Encountering them accidentally is not a coincidence. It's a warning, a test, or an opportunity to prove humility. Humans rarely pass the test. Legendary stories. One story tells of a man walking home through the forest when he stumbled into a Nimerigar camp. They were dancing in a circle, tiny feet drumming on rocks, singing songs older than the trees. He laughed at their small size, a grave mistake. The leader raised a miniature bow, aimed at him, and the forest suddenly fell silent. The man left, barely alive, and never mocked tiny beings again. Lesson: never underestimate what looks small. The cultural significance. Little people are not just for scares. They represent respect for the unseen, humility, reverence for nature, and the idea that power isn't measured in size or strength. They are tiny, yes, but the lessons they deliver echo louder than thunder. Coming up, the grand finale, where everything connects. After wandering skies, waters, forests, deserts, mountains, and tiny hidden realms, we approach the final chapter. The ultimate takeaway of Native American mythology: balance, respect, and understanding that humans are just one small part of a very, very crowded world. Next, we'll tie together the sky, the water, the tricksters, the giants, the deer spirits, and the little people, showing how all of it is a single, coherent lesson from generations of wisdom. The web of spirits. Lessons from every corner of the land. The web of spirits. Lessons from every corner of the land. Here we are. The moment where all the paths, forests, skies, waters, deserts, and mountains converge. All the creatures, all the spirits, all the stories we've traveled through, from Thunderbirds to stone giants, Wendigos to deer woman, little people to Mishipeshu, they're not random. They are threads in one vast, intricate web. The central lesson. Humans are not the center. Indigenous folklore consistently reminds humans. You are part of the ecosystem, not above it. Your actions ripple outward, sometimes instantly, sometimes slowly, but always. Nature has laws. Spirits enforce them. Ignoring them is unwise. Every story is a warning, a lesson, and sometimes a joke. Because humans, as we know, are prone to being spectacularly stupid. Coyote shows that chaos has a purpose. Dear Woman shows that arrogance has consequences. Stone giants remind us that raw power without cooperation ends poorly. Mishipeshu shows that greed and disrespect to sacred places are punished. Thunderbirds demonstrate that balance must be maintained. Wendigos warn against unchecked hunger, selfishness, and isolation. Little people teach that even the smallest, most invisible forces matter. All of it together is a manual for surviving life on a living, breathing, conscious planet. The interconnectedness of it all. Look closely. Sky and water are linked. Storms control rivers, and water responds to weather patterns. Mountains and forests are homes to spirits, animals, and resources. Humans need to respect every entity, even the minor ones, like the little people, because they can tip the scales of balance. Every story, no matter how terrifying or ridiculous, has a purpose: to remind humans that they are not the top of the food chain, just one participant in a story older than memory. Modern reflections. You might think, these are old stories. Spirits aren't real. Dear women aren't lurking in the trees. Wendigos aren't prowling snowy forests. And maybe you're right. But think about it differently. Humans still fail to respect nature. Communities still suffer when greed and selfishness go unchecked. Natural disasters still remind us how powerless we can be. The lessons remain relevant. The spirits, in other words, don't need to exist physically to be alive in meaning. The final tale. A synthesis of lessons. Imagine this. A young traveler walks through the land, unprepared, arrogant, and curious. He enters a forest. The Deer Woman watches. He approaches a river. Mishipeshu stirs beneath the surface. Storm clouds gather. Thunderbirds flash above. A shadow passes silently. Little people observe. Far in the north, snow drifts. A Wendigo's gaze lingers. Mountains loom. Stone giants rest inside, massive and patient. Every step is a lesson. Every breath is a decision. Every action matters. If he behaves with respect, humility, and caution, he moves safely. If he does not, well, the legends are clear. And that, in essence, is Native American folklore. A complex, beautiful, terrifying, humorous, endlessly imaginative system designed to teach humans how to exist in balance, and maybe, just maybe, not get eaten or cursed while doing it. Epilogue. So, after traveling from sky to earth, from ice to desert, from giants to the tiniest spirits, what do we take away? Respect all life, even the beings you cannot see. Recognize interconnectedness, because nothing exists in isolation. Learn from stories, because they carry the distilled wisdom of generations. Laugh sometimes, because even spirits have humor, and humans will keep screwing up, so you might as well enjoy it. Never underestimate what seems small, insignificant, or invisible. And with that, you are ready to understand the Native American mythical landscape. A world that is terrifying, hilarious, majestic, and above all, wise. And if you ignore all the warnings, well, at least you'll have a good story.